Hi, my name's Daniel Dowley. You might remember me in my 1984 Volvo wagon, affectionately known as Chewy, for making a ruckus when he was impounded in Wenatchee and taken to East Wenatchee. I was only in town for a couple of days. I forgot about the holiday. I was in town to do research at the courthouse, and I'd just come down from dry camping up around Pateros, where I was doing some photography work. I finished up my research at the courthouse, got back to where I'd parked Chewy, and he was gone. And sure enough, the Wenatchee PD had towed him away. No warning, no note, no ticket. I can't see how that agrees with the Supreme Court decision, 3-year-old Supreme Court decision, but so they towed him. I finally made my way to Thompson Towing in East Wenatchee. They had a fire, and there was just a note. But to operate a tow company, an impound company, legally in Washington, you have to meet certain requirements, and Thompson fell short on every one of them. Well, there's 6, but they fell short on 5 of the 6. So I just come back to find my home gone, made my way to the tow company. There was just a note. They weren't staffed. They saw me, the neighbor saw me creeping around. I was trying to get the Wi-Fi signal off of my phone, which was still in my home, with my meds and my cane and my warm clothing. And a neighbor saw me and called the owners, and they sent somebody by. But without me having access to a phone, I couldn't do anything. And access to a phone is legally required for an impound lot. So they noticed I was getting agitated, and the cops were called. The cops showed up, and they noticed I was getting agitated. And I mentioned that I was a stroke survivor. They put me in handcuffs and sent me to the hospital. Let me repeat. I wasn't out of control. I was sitting down. I was just speaking calmly, saying, well, I'll just have to sit here till morning when they show up. And the cops fucking put me in handcuffs and sent me to the hospital for evaluation. I sat at the hospital for a couple of hours. Nurse stuck her head in and said, you can go. I was like, where's the evaluation? No, you've been sitting here long enough. You can go. So I walked out into the freezing cold night. No warm clothing, no socks. I just planned on spending a couple hours doing it at the courthouse and then heading back out of town. I was heading back out of town to work for a couple of businesses up north, one in Chelan, one in Okanagan, doing some computer work and photography. And I ghosted them. My phone was locked in my home, my car, and I just never showed to do the jobs for them that we've been working on for weeks. So, since the fire, Thompson hasn't been operating as a legal tow company. And I called them to let them know that, and the woman who answered the phone screamed, you need to stop calling us. Well, in point of fact, that was the first time I'd ever called Thompson. The state attorney general called him. The Catholic Services called him. The Northwest Justice Project called him. They wanted $900 for a 1-day impound. So we managed to get them down to $541. But since they were stealing cars, I don't want to pay the $541. And since I got to try on handcuffs for the first time in 40 years and spend the first night of my life at a shelter, I want a little more. And since the Supreme Court decision, the 3-year-old Supreme Court decision said everything that was done to me was wrong, so I'm asking for $30,541. The $541 is obviously the money that I paid for the tow. The $30,000 is going to be split. I get half, and the other half will be equally split between the Catholic Charities, the Lighthouse Mission, and the Northwest Justice Project, $5,000 apiece. Now, this is a settlement offer in anticipation of litigation. If we go to court, I'm a 58-year-old pensioner and stroke survivor from one of the biggest and most respected media companies in the world who was only in town for 1 day. And while he was there, went to Priebus Market and posted some great stuff and photos, and took a lot of photos of the admirals in Wenatchee. I haven't retracted any of that, and I still like Wally's, and but you guys need to get with the times. You're too big you're too small a town or you're too big a town, whatever. You're the wrong size not to be up to date on 3-year-old Supreme Court decisions that you can't tow a fucking home for trivial things like tabs. I'm insured, and the tabs aren't even my fault. The mechanic who sold me the car thought he did the lien paperwork right, and it wasn't a lien. It was just the woman the cost of the repairs was more than she wanted to put into a 40-year-old wagon. So, I'd gone to the licensing office, and I was still trying to get it worked out. It's in the process of getting finalized now. I have to get back over to the other side of the mountains. I have a 3-day pass now, and I'm going to burn it when I come back over. But you have, what's this, Tuesday? I'll send writing, stuff in writing, but this is a settlement offer. Please preserve, and I will send the appropriate things. Please preserve all body cameras and all records and all reports. And Thompson, you should know, if you'd had a better adjuster after the fire, they would have had you check your regulatory requirements and seen that you weren't meeting them, and your business interruption insurance should have kicked in. But woulda, shoulda, coulda, if I'd have paid my tabs, well, if the mechanic who'd sold it to me had given me the ability to transfer the title in my name, I'd have paid my tabs. The penalty for that shouldn't have been, but it was, my home being taken without notice. I fucked up. You fucked up, and the penalty for your fuck up is going to be worse than the penalty for my mistake. If this goes to court, we're going to look through your records during the discovery process, and every impound tow you've done since the fire wasn't legal, right? And the cities that hired you, you can all work this out between yourselves. I don't feel the need at this point to let anybody else know, but the look on the face I got from the Catholic Charities when I told him that your camera car had towed my vehicle, they told me to never plan on seeing it again. And at that moment, I realized why this was happening, because you don't ignore a 3-year-old Supreme Court decision. You don't use an unlicensed tow company to tow. You don't send a guy to the hospital for evaluation when it becomes inconvenient to answer his questions about access to a phone and stuff. And if you do, you can expect to pay a big, fat legal settlement. If this goes to trial, I will ask for significantly more than $30,541, and I'll probably get it. Okay? I want to save some time. I want to save the good people of Wenatchee, East Wenatchee, and Thompson Towing, and potentially their insurer. By the way, you have to run this offer. Thompson, you have to run this offer by your insurer. If you decline the offer, then any settlement or any decision the court reaches, anything I get at court, you have to pay without your insurance company. They're out if you don't give them the offer to run this by them, which will point out to them that you've been operating as an unlicensed insurance or impound tow company. So that's that. It is Tuesday, November 12th. I give you, 10 days to 22nd? What's the 22nd? So, the 22nd is, where's my calendar? I give you till Friday, November 22nd, to agree to this settlement, or I'll file a lawsuit. I would love to go to court with this, but what I want more than to go to court is to get a settlement just big enough that you guys have to look at your process. And if you have to come up with a note that says, hey, if we ever see this unlicensed car parked in this rich neighborhood again, it'll be towed, or issue a ticket for bad tabs. But I don't imagine if it had been like a 2022 Mercedes Sprinter kind of thing, or a Ford yuppie camp wagon with bad tabs, you might have assumed that it wasn't a poor person you didn't want in your town. So, yeah. Yeah. November 22nd, Friday, 5 o'clock. If I don't hear from you guys by then, and I'll include all my contact info with this. If I don't hear from you guys by then, expect a lawsuit to be filed. Disabled guy had his home taken, was left walking in the cold after getting out of the hospital at 10 o'clock at night with no warm clothing, went down to the bus shelter, the bus station, tried to sleep on a bench. The cops showed up, and I asked to go to jail. And they're like, jail's not a hotel. And I'm like, I know jail's not a hotel, but I want to talk to a judge as soon as possible. They convinced me to go to the shelter. And the next day, I stopped by the Attorney General of Washington State's Extension Office, the Justice Project, and the Catholic Charities, and found that I'm not alone. And Wenatchee's been doing this to a lot of people, despite the state Supreme Court decision. So, buck up, Cowboys.